Welcome to the Water Channel podcast, a series of conversations on water, food, and agriculture. We feature stories and insights that are defining our present and are shaping our future. I am Abraham Abhishek. If you have stumbled into this podcast, you must have heard about organic agriculture or regenerative agriculture or natural farming. There's a lot of terms and subcategories, and agricultural experts or nerds know exactly which is the best term to use in what context. But you know what I'm talking about, the good kind of agriculture. The kind that keeps the soil and the rivers and the ponds healthy rather than degrade them. That uses natural fertilizers and pesticides made of things like cow dung rather than synthetic chemicals. If you're a consumer of food, which you hopefully are, you must have considered organic fruits, vegetables, dairy, and meat as potentially healthy options for your body. If, apart from being a consumer, you also have an interest in the environment, the ecology, you must have thought through all the different ways in which organic agriculture is potentially good for the planet. So there is general agreement that organic is good and there should be more of it. And this is not just a vague general feeling shared by a large number of people. Organizations like the FAO or the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN have also said that yes, more and more people adopting organic agriculture will help attain sustainable development goals. It is also true, though, that a transition to sustainable agriculture to any significant degree is yet to be made. Across countries, only small pockets of cultivated land are under organic farming. And although in many countries the willingness and policies are in place, even there the process is closer to the beginning than to completion. In this episode, we talk to Vineet Kumar, journalist at Down to Earth magazine that comes out from New Delhi, India. Vineet has spent the last few years tracking the state of agriculture in India. He talks about just how much farmers, policymakers, the private sector, and consumers have warmed up to organic agriculture, what they are doing to transition to it, and how that's working out. Vineet, thanks for joining us. Let's start from the beginning. What is organic agriculture? And I do not mean how FAO defines it or how the Indian Ministry of Agriculture defines it, but farmers, extension workers, and others working with them at the ground level, what do they understand by the term organic agriculture?
We have a definition by FAO. But what farmer understand from organic farming is this, that they basically feel that organic farming is something which is a chemical-free farming, and which we can do in without causing any harm or damage to nature, without creating any issues in our soil health, in our environmental health, in our water issues, all these things. So overall, farmers are doing organic farming so that they can ensure the sustainability, basically sustainability of natural resources, sustainability of their soil health, sustainability of their water resources, sustainability of their nutrition which they receive from the crops, all these things. So looking at all these things, so this is what they think. I think.
Okay, so organic agriculture is good for the ecosystem, but does it have the capacity to provide all the food that a growing population needs or wants?
If we look at the organic agriculture results, and if we look at the scientific evidences which the Indian agriculture research has produced, so it's a huge, like earlier, all of us has thought that the organic agriculture will not give much yield. But the ICR's flagship research program, which is running in 16 to 18 locations in different parts of India, it is showing that for most of the crops, more yield is possible in organic farming as compared to chemical farming for most of the crops.
Vineet is referring here to work done by the Indian Council for Agricultural Research, India's apex agricultural research body. Links to the reports are provided in the show notes. So this operating definition of organic agriculture implies that it is clearly a good thing. Is this the consensus among farmers as well? Are they all trying to transition to organic agriculture?
So if we look at Indian agriculture, since 1960s, we have started using chemical agriculture, chemical inputs. After this green evolution started,
The green revolution that Vineet is referring to is a transition to a more industrial system of agriculture in India. It involved the use of high yielding seed varieties, development of irrigation infrastructure, and more intensive use of water for crop production, and more intensive use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. All this was geared towards improving yield and expanding overall agricultural production.
And it's now we are in 2022. So farmers in various parts of India, they can see it clearly that it has caused a great damage. The current chemical and input intensive agriculture is no more sustainable. They can see it that even if they keep using more and more chemical fertilizer, the yield is getting stagnated. They see the soil health test reports clearly shows us that the soil health is decreasing. The organic carbon content in the soil, the humus, the NPK nutrients, all these values have been decreasing. No one understands it better than farmers, because farmers see it in their day-to-day life that what are the harms caused by chemical fertilizers. They see that there were earlier they used to see earthworms, for example. So now they can clearly see that the earthworms population has decreased drastically. So this is very clear. And farmers can see it and can feel it that the kind of nutrient and the kind of diversity they used to have earlier, it is not there now because of the current chemical and input intensive agriculture model and because of the market driven agriculture thing. So farmers are adopting more and more monocropping. So they are just going from only few crops. So this is which is going on, and farmers feel that they want to get out of it. In fact, in India, we can see that this chemical and input intensive agriculture has increased their cost of cultivation tremendously. So even before this agriculture, there was this income related concern. The farm income was very low. So the cost of cultivation for farmers in general are very high, and it has increased exponentially in last few decades. But the price which farmer get from their crops, they have not increased in that proportion. So the profit margin, it is becoming very less and less and less. That's why lots of farmers are under debt now. In India, there are several states where farmers are under tremendous debt. They feel that they have, got into this never-ending debt crisis. And that's why it is also being linked to the farmer suicides, which is happening in India in different states. And even if like farmers are not committing suicide, even then the farmers' conditions are very bad, economically as well as ecologically. So they can clearly feel that this chemical and input intensive agriculture is not able to, fulfill their requirement. So they need to get out of it. But unfortunately, most of them, a large majority of them, don't know the way out. You go to any farmer, you talk to them, they themselves will say that we don't like to put so much chemical fertilizer into our soil. They understand that this is working as a poison to their soil. It is damaging their soil. They understand it, but there is no way out.
So, why is it that farmers in India are not able to transition away from conventional agriculture to organic agriculture? According to Vineet, it's not just X number of barriers that, if they are knocked over one by one, a pathway to organic agriculture will open up to farmers. Some of the reasons are deep rooted and systemic. They have to do with the nature of agriculture itself in India. First of all, there's a difference between the amount of financial support available to conventional farmers and organic farmers. Huge difference.
So largely, the current chemical input intensive system is heavily subsidized by the government. If we look at the chemical fertilizer subsidy, for example, in India, this is in general for last few years, it has been around 80,000 crore rupees, Indian rupees. This year, it increased to 1,31,000 crore rupees. So which is huge. If we look at the kind of support which the Indian government is giving to organic farming, it is just in the range of at max 500 crore to 1,000 crore at max. That's it.
In terms of US dollars, that translates into 11 to 18 billion dollars in subsidy for chemical fertilizers. The subsidy for organic agriculture in general is only 70 to 120 million dollars.
So there is no comparison. So the farmers are not getting level playing field because the chemical inputs are heavily subsidized. They can get it cheaper.
This lack of investment gives rise to many barriers to switch to organic farming. For example, less money in agriculture translates into less money in agricultural research and agricultural extension.
If we look at the agriculture research investment in India, it is less than 1%.
That's less than 1% of India's GDP.
Our agriculture extension system in India is not that good. It is like during Green Revolution, I think it was in much better shape. But now there is lots of issues there, staff shortage, lots of other things are there. So if we have to convert to organic farming, we need a good agriculture extension system, which could provide a good support to farmers at local level. Because there will be a lot of questions. Because now it's been 1960s, it's been around 60 years. Now we have been practicing chemical-based farming. So most of the farmers have forgotten how to do organic farming. And they need support at different stages of their crop production, how to do sowing, whether there is any difference in irrigation, whether how to put fertilizer and what time, all these things. And it's not that their ancient knowledge is not sufficient most of the times. They need regular innovation. They need new research, even in organic farming. The organic farming movement was mostly led by civil society and independent farmers. There were some individuals, independent farmers, they came forward and then they developed certain things. They learned from the past, they added something, they innovated something. Like there was Mr. Dabholkar, there was someone from Tamil Nadu, someone from other parts of India. So those techniques had not been properly documented and mainstreamed into the Indian agriculture system. And even the Indian agriculture scientific community, ICR, even they have limited package of practices only for select crops, for select geographies. So the first question farmer asks, whom should I go? Who will teach me? So like if there is a pest attack, in chemical, we know that there are options. We go to dealer shop, he will give different pesticides that you use this one, X, Y, Z, etc., etc. But in the case of organic farming, you have to handle it differently. There are then weed issues. So in the chemical farming, you just spray something, weedicides, etc., etc. Even though it is very dangerous, very harmful, but then you use that. But in the organic farming, you need to learn how to manage your weeds. In the organic farming, you need to preserve indigenous seeds. You need to work on what varieties of seeds should be used in which climates, which agroclimatic condition.
Related to this lack of adequate research is the lack of capacity on part of government officials charged with supporting farmers to transition to organic farming.
These schemes, in general, I can say that these schemes are not effective in helping farmers to make a transition. Because let me give you one example. These schemes are implemented largely through agriculture department officials at district level. And normally those agriculture department officials, they don't have sufficient understanding themselves. They have been practicing chemical agriculture for last several years, but now suddenly they have been told that you need to give organic farming training. So they off the record, they tell us that we ourselves don't understand fully the organic farming. So we don't know how to teach it to farmers. So that is also one issue.
Most farmers in India are smallholders and financially insecure. They cannot bear the temporary dip in yield and the decrease in income that is inevitable when you switch to a different way of farming.
So there are lots of transitional challenges. Around 86% of the farmers in India are small and marginal farmers. So they don't have that much capacity to bear loss even for one season or for 1 year. Like, let us say if they I switch to organic farming, and if my crop yield is decreased, then it will be very difficult for me to deal with that kind of damage, with loss.
For the same reason, that is, lack of financial resilience to deal with change, farmers find it difficult to put in the extra labor that organic farming demands.
These type of farming are labor intensive. Farmer have to prepare their own inputs on their farm, which add to their burden. Already farmers, have so many work to do. So, and our the family system is also, earlier we used to have joint family system. Now there are that's no more the case. Most of the farmers are doing individual at their individual level, so lots of labor is required. So that is also one deterrent. In fact, under natural farming practices where farmer prepare their own farm inputs, actually it decreased drastically as far as input cost of cultivation. But then we are not counting their labor. The farmer, their family, all their family person, their wife, children, all of them are engaged and putting labor. So we are not counting that if we are saying that organic, their cost of cultivation is less.
A key basis of organic agriculture is crop variety. There are, of course, advantages of your produce being a variety of crops, but that does make it more difficult to market and sell.
Let us say I'm a farmer in Punjab, and I can sell my produce. I have rice, so I can, and wheat, so I can easily sell rice and wheat at a government mandi. But under organic farming, normally it is a diversified cropping pattern. So I have, let us say, 10 crops, 10 types of different crops. So where to sell? It is easy for me as a farmer just to have one or two crops, so that I just go to market, sell those one or two crops. But if I have, let us say, 10 type of crops, or 5 or 6 type of crops, so I need different market for that. So actually there are farmers who have converted part of their land under organic, and now they want to convert entire land under organic, but there is this market concern because they feel where to sell. It's not, for a small farmers, it's very difficult actually to, if they have to go to cities or to different districts, then there is lots of transportation cost, all those costs are involved, so it becomes very difficult for them.
What does not help marketing and selling and getting a good price are government policies geared towards making produce as cheap as possible for consumers.
Our priority is consumer in India. We say that we need to maintain that there is no price inflation. So if I am a farmer, there is a plenty of crops, automatically crop price will be down, so I will not get good price. If there are some crop production shortage, there are chances that I will get a good price. But then they reduce their import tariffs, all these things. So again, those things are imported, and then again, I don't get the good prices. This is happening across the country. Like, there are onion farmers, there are vegetable farmers, they're throwing away their crop produce because they are not able to even cover their cost of cultivation. If we look, let us say one example, Karnataka. So there is this Karnataka State Government Agriculture Price Commission. They compared they took around 24 to 25 crops which is grown in Karnataka, and they see that what is their cost of cultivation for these crops and what is the minimum support price for those crops which farmers could get.
Minimum support price is the price at which the government, in this case the government of Karnataka state, buys produce from farmers. This also determines what price farmers get from private buyers.
So they were like, they were surprised, not surprised, they already knew it, but it was like put on record that cost of cultivation in 99% of the crop was more than the minimum support price, if they actually honestly calculate the cost of cultivation. So in general, agriculture has become largely a loss making, or it's a very high risk profession. So no one is putting more effort in agriculture. Even the farmers, they are doing some side business, something else, because they know that the agriculture income alone will not be sufficient to have a good lifestyle.
Thinking from a consumer's perspective, what incentives does the consumer have to demand for organic produce or to support organic agriculture?
Actually, the farmers themselves are the biggest consumer. Like farmers also a consumer, so they also purchase organic produce from other farmers. So they as a consumer, I think normally consumer want two things. First is they want credibility. They want authentic organic produce because there is a huge issues of fake organic produce available in the market. So there are lots of complaint. So consumer sometimes is often willing to pay a little higher. That's fine. They are fine, but then they're not sure if they can trust the organic produce sold by different companies or at different forums. So it is. So I think the trust issue is a big issue for consumers here. They of course there are lots of consumer, especially in urban areas, especially in metro cities, who are ready to pay the higher prices. But then there is a trust deficit. They don't know, and then there are tests by different people, and then it was observed that even the so-called organic produce, they found chemical residues. So that's a big concern for consumers.
Would organic certification help address some of these trust issues? What kind of certification mechanisms exist and how well do they work?
So there is this one PGS approach, participatory guarantee system, where as per the Indian government guideline, minimum 5 farmers are required. So they form a group, and then they self-certified kind of. They give a declaration that we have not used any chemicals. We have used all the good agriculture practice. All those things are they have to give. And then second thing is that through the third party certification, which is comes under NPOP program. So where the external private companies will come, they will certify you, and then you will get the certificate, organic certificate. And then now there are some government organizations also. There are some state governments have their own state organic certification agency who certify farmers. So, but that is also a third party certification system. So under this PGS system, farmers don't have to pay anything, but there are some costs involved, some consultancy costs, some paperwork, all those costs are involved. But as such, they don't have to pay any fees to farmers or to the government. But in case of third party certification system, they have to pay a good price to the companies, and which is often the farmers find it costly. And if let us say we are a group of farmers and we want to export our organic produce, then this PGS system, it is not allowed to export. If we have to export, then we have to go through this NPOP program. Means we have to approach some third party to get a certify, and if we have those certifications, then only we will be able to export. But then because this a significant cost is involved in that, so especially the small farmers, they found it very discouraging. We need to build better certification system which are farmer friendly, which consumers can trust. As of now we have PGS, but somehow consumer trust is not that much for that system.
And what about the private sector? Where do they figure in this organic landscape in India? Do they stand to gain from a growth in organic agriculture?
And especially after the COVID thing, the people are becoming more and more conscious about their food, what they eat, and they want healthy food. Whether these are urban consumers or whether these are rural consumers, whether these are rich people, they are middle class, all of them want healthy food. So, but what is the problem? The problem is that the companies, the private sector comes into the picture because they are profit oriented. So they try their best to give minimum possible price to the farmers and to get maximum possible price from the consumer. So it is not a win-win situation. The farmer is losing as well as consumer is losing. So the organic prices of different organic brands available in different parts of India are often very costly. So a common man, they feel, yeah, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. It's too costly. But at the same time, The farmers who are producing those produce, he also feels that I'm not getting a good share of that profit. That's where organizations like self-help groups, cooperatives, farmer groups, now government is promoting farmer producer organizations, all those things come into picture. We have a model like Amul, which is owned by farmers, so that a good price of the profit could be shared back to the cultivator, to the farmer. But of course it helps if like more and more private sectors get involved into the organic business. It helps, at the end of the day it helps farmers. If we could have a, ideally if we could have a publicly funded supply chain, efficient supply chain, then it will be very good for a farmer to get a good share of the profit.
So, Vineet, given the picture that you have painted, taking into account what has worked and what has not worked in India, what do you think a roadmap towards transition to organic agriculture should look like?
There are several states which are doing good, I think. So like we have Sikkim, which has now become 100% organic farming, even though farmers have there some issues. They didn't, some of them uh, were not provided adequate trainings, so they have some challenges, and there was some market linkage issues also. But there are 100% organic farming state. And then there are states like Andhra Pradesh. So they are trying to convert farmers at mass scale. They say that they have enrolled more than 5 lakhs of farmers under their natural farming program. They say it Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming Program. Earlier it was named as Climate Resilient Zero Budget Natural Farming Program. And then there are states now, states like Uttarakhand who are doing good in this. And then there are states like Himachal Pradesh, which also have a natural farming program. And historically, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they have done good work in, and even Kerala, they have also done good work in organic agriculture. Then there is this large area certification program by the government, where small island state like Lakshadweep, all these are being now declared as a organic farming area, because by default that they are not using chemical fertilizers, so by default they are organic. So we need to have a good mix of we need to involve expert farmers who are doing farming on ground. So whenever in the capacity building program should happen in a way where the experienced farmers give training, not the agriculture department officials who themselves might not be doing the organic farming. This is just one example. So and then there is lots of traditional knowledge, lots of good knowledge in different parts of the country. Lots of good farmers have innovated lots of things. So they need to, all these practices, like one is in under national farming we have Jivamrat, Ganjivamrat, and then there is Amrit Mitti. So there are different types of techniques which need to be documented and which need to be assessed scientifically, and then which need to be incorporated into the curriculum, educational curriculum, as well as they need to further research on to further improve those things, and then their dissemination should happen at mass scale. So it's all about, there are 3-4 things which a farm, if we have to make a transition at mass scale, then first thing is that the capacity building, the knowledge transfer, and that itself is a big thing. It's only simple trainings does not help. Farmers need to see from their own eyes to get convinced and get mobilized. So they need to see demonstration models. They need to see that the organic agriculture can give good results. So we need to have different models within their locality where they can themselves visit and they can see that organic farming is working. That's the best thing which could help in farmer making the transition. And then if I give you an example of Andhra Pradesh, what they are doing in making a mass transition. First of all, they are identifying some experts farmer from their village itself. They are doing their trainings at mass scale. And then those trainers are in the village itself for 24 hours. It's not like agriculture government officials, which they come only 9 to 5, or maybe they are not approachable or whatever. So they call it community resource person. They train farmer, they give that farmer all the exposure, they pay him some money, let us say 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 per month. And their role is to be in village, to mobilize farmers, to motivate farmers. And then they use ICT, they make videos of different organic or natural farming techniques. And then they play those videos in front of farmers in the night or in the evening, whenever farmer have time. So those videos also have actual farmers who are doing organic farming. The farmers themselves are telling their experience, that how they are getting good yield, or whether they are facing issues or not facing any issues, all those things. So that is like providing training when farmer could see from their own eyes. And then there is the organic inputs. So they help farmers getting indigenous seeds, the local seeds, the desi seeds they call, which is good, which should be used ideally in organic farming. And then there are organic inputs which they produce on farm, most of it. Even now there are ICR models in India where they have developed some organic farming model where around 80 to 90% of organic input required can be produced on farm. So farmers don't have to depend on market to purchase chemical agriculture inputs. They can up to 90% they can produce at their own farm. So they need to give training for that specific organic inputs production. And then some farmer might find it labor intensive work. They might not be able to, they feel that we don't have that much time, or we don't have that much manpower to make our own inputs. So that's why what they have done it, Andhra has done is at local level, they have opened some local input shops where farmers are engaged in making all these local inputs, organic inputs or bio inputs, like Jivamarat, Ghan Jivamarat. They are using cattle dungs, cattle urine, local, they are taking some plants from the local environment and using these biological formulations. So then there are some rain-fed areas, even where there are now cases that farmers are able to get good yield even if there is no rain, even if there are drought conditions, even if the temperature has increased. So because now climate change is happening, so climate is changing. So under the changing climate scenario, farmers are provided training that how they can adapt themselves to the changing climate things. And then there are efforts to link them to market. Initially, if there are some only select handful of farmers are there, so normally because of their own credibility, the local community, local populations themselves approach them to get good healthy food. So they are able to sell to in the local itself and getting a good price. But as the number of organic farmers will increase, they will be needing a systematic approach to market. Then they will need a good market connect, which is currently missing. So all these things has to be provided.
Thanks, Vineet, for that very comprehensive answer. Before I let you go, could we hop quickly from India to Sri Lanka? As you know, last year, April, the government announced that only organic farming would be allowed in the country. So that was April 2021. Cut to August 2021, the government declared an economic emergency, mostly due to a shortage of food items and spike in prices of essential commodities. So, should we look at Sri Lanka as a cautionary tale? Should other countries, India included, look at Sri Lanka and temper down their enthusiasm regarding the potential of organic agriculture to feed themselves?
If we look at the case of Sri Lanka, what they did is that they just suddenly announced that 100% of our agriculture will be converted to organic farming. So there are farmers who are protesting there. They were saying that we are ready to convert to organic farming, but first provide us the training, first provide us organic inputs, first provide us organic fertilizers, first provide us organic seeds. Then only we'll convert now. And it will normally it takes 2 to 3 years. It might take 2 to 3 years to make a transition. So the what happened in Sri Lanka was that because of certain situation, they were kind of forced to take this decision. And other, if we look just 1 or 2 years back to their decision, they were thinking we will increase the organic agriculture up to 30% of their agriculture area. But then suddenly they say 100% of agriculture area. But where are the trainers? Where is the capacity building? Where is the organic inputs? That is not there. So obviously it will be a disaster. And then there will be people who will say, oh, look, we told you organic farming is not working. You look at the case of Sri Lanka. So there was huge issues created by organic agriculture. But these issues are not created by organic agriculture. These issues are management issues.
Thank you, Vineet. Thanks a lot for sitting down with us and for taking the time to paint this very intricate picture of organic agriculture in India very patiently.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
There are obviously so many dimensions to this discussion, given that this is not just about food, but also about soil, water, jobs, business, education, well-being, and whatnot. And any actions or interventions in this area should start with recognizing the length and breadth of its scope. A good place to start would be a report called The State of Organic and Natural Farming in India, Challenges and Possibilities, published by the Center for Science and Environment, which is also behind the Down to Earth magazine for which Vineet works. You'll find the download link in the show notes. Thanks for listening.